Could a simple teaspoon of common, inexpensive ingredients be all that you need to get rid of sleep apnea, cut out the snoring, and start waking up refreshed? It might sound too good to be true, but once you understand how sleep apnea works deep down to the level inside of your cells, then you'll discover how to unlock deep, restorative sleep and reclaim your mornings. And this all natural approach not only helps you sleep better and snore less, but it will also help reverse all the damage that sleep apnea has caused to your heart and to your brain. Now, don't worry, this is not a pitch for some overpriced supplement that I sell. I'm here to share the truth about what really works. That's why in this episode, I'm going to show you this simple yet powerful solution and how it's been a game changer in overcoming sleep apnea once and for all. To show you how the solution works, it's important to know about this ignored factor of sleep apnea. And it's ignored, but you may actually already have an intuitive sense of what this is. Because I will ask you, what is the common factor amongst these three things? Whether that's a cold or some other respiratory infection causing some congestion, acid reflux, and also allergies. What do these have to do with sleep apnea? The answer here is that they all cause inflammation, as shown here. When you have normal cells in your airways, they're going to look like this. They're going to be normal size, and they are going to be a bit smaller in comparison to these inflamed cells that are bigger. It's really important to recognize this because a lot of times we get caught up in anatomy being the only driver of sleep apnea, but there's many other factors that you need to understand, and that's what this teaspoon solution is going to help you target. Now, the reason we're going on this inflammation detour is because the law of physics. Stick with me here, the payoff is very real. What I mean is when you have air flowing through a tube like shown here, it will follow Pascal's law, which is everybody's favorite French physicist. I know it's mine. And what this is going to tell us is that the ability for air to flow is related to the radius of this tube. That's like half the inside, how long that is. If you think of the radius of inside of a straw, very, very small. The radius of a big tube, like somewhere in the sewer, that's going to be a really big radius. It is related to this to the fourth power. It has an exponential relationship. Now, what this will mean for your airflow, let's say we go from 1.5 centimeters, which could be a common radius in one of your nasal passages. If we go from 1.5, let's go down to 1.2, which is just 0.3 centimeters, the width of a credit card. That is now at 40% of the airflow. That is going to cause huge problems because when air is not flowing easily, your body is forced to breathe harder, faster, and more irregularly. And that's bad because when your body is forced to breathe harder because it has impaired airflow, that is actually going to pull the tissues in your oral passageway, like your tongue and your soft palate. It will pull it into the back and actually block off the airway. So when you have inflamed airways, then this will lead to poor airflow that your body has to compensate for, and that actually triggers sleep apnea. So let me explain and build on that more because I know a lot of people think, oh, it's just anatomy. There's a lot more to it because it all adds together. And that's why understanding the role of inflammation in sleep apnea is so critically important. Because not only, and this is the study if you want to go look it up, but here's the main graphic from it to really simplify things. Obstructive sleep apnea and also central sleep apnea, that will lead to increased inflammation throughout your entire body. And then as a result, this will lead to a downward spiral because inflammation will then worsen these problems. It'll make your sleep worse. It'll make your cells more susceptible to the damage of swinging oxygen levels at night because of this inflammation. But beyond that, there's more to the story because not only will inflammation cause this downward spiral, but it will also cause damage to other places in your body, like it is insulin and making weight gain something that just happens or makes weight loss impossible, or it's your heart leading to heart attacks or a cardiovascular system with a stroke or dementia. It goes on and on and on because of inflammation. And that's why that's really the big focus inside of your cells that I want to be targeting with the teaspoon solution we're going to talk about in a little bit. Big point being, inflammation will make every part of your breathing harder, which will then lead to big problems in sleep apnea. And again, just to quickly address this of it just being about anatomy, yes, there can be many different ways in which you can have sleep apnea, big tongue, big adenoids. I'm not denying that. I'm not a anatomy denier. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of effects that stack inside your body that ultimately trigger apnea episodes. Because we already talked about three things that don't really change anatomy at all, except by inflammation and making those things bigger in your cells and narrowing the tube, right? Didn't really change the size of your tongue, changed anatomy elsewhere though a little bit. But also at a cellular level, this will worsen and make your breathing a worse pattern for sleep apnea. So just to introduce this idea, and this will build on what we're going to talk about, is the sleep apnea threshold. And this is backed up by research literature. If you want to look this up yourself, you can do it. This is just a representation for you. Nonetheless, when you start out, you may have some anatomy issue, big tongue, big adenoids, whatever, or maybe something in your nose. That's going to be a factor. But then over time, because this will contribute to either a worse breathing pattern or just other things happen in your life. You're stressed out, you're not eating as healthy. Things happen. You're going to have metabolic factors stack in and this bad breathing pattern that starts to develop. But we're not quite there yet. We're not having a lot of apnea episodes. It's not until all of these stack together over time, then you start to trigger and have a lot more of these apnea episodes. It's not just anatomy. If it was, surgery would have a 100% success level, not like a 40-50% success level. And to back this up with research even more, when they actually look in the tissues of people's sleep apnea inflammatory markers, like from these studies here, there's increased levels of interleukin 6 or IL-6, TNF alpha here. Those are going to be elevated. And then also melatonin, which we know is a sleep hormone, but it's also a very powerful anti-inflammatory substance inside of our cells that will actually be depleted because of the high inflammation levels inside of the airways. So big thing to take away from there is that yes, there may be some anatomy going on, but also these metabolic factors like inflammation will then lead and make this whole situation worse. So that's why this whole episode is really about what if we targeted that? Because there's so much more to sleep apnea than meets the eye. And the reason it's so important to target inflammation specifically, because not only will it start to help undo parts of sleep apnea, but it will reverse a lot of the damage that is really the thing that makes sleep apnea so deadly to your heart and to your brain. So as part of this, and we'll fly through the science here, again, deeper reading for inquiring minds is shown on the screen. But one of the big things is that you'll have swings in oxygen levels, and that will lead to, if we zoom all the way in, oh, it's our friend here, inflammation, very first item on the list, in leading to all these different problems in the cardiovascular system, hypertension, clogging of arteries, heart rhythms going awry, causing all these problems because of inflammation derived from sleep apnea. And then on top of that is also going to be inflammation in the brain. That's why sleep apnea is one of the top drivers of dementia. And how this happens is the similar story. You have obstructive sleep apnea, and this causes changes in oxygen, increased level of inflammation, and this is going to pretty much destroy neurons in your brain and lead to all of those neurocognitive problems, memory, executive function, all that. And actually, when you look at the brain scans in people with sleep apnea versus without it, I mean, you don't need to be a neurologist to spot the difference here. On the left, you're having very poor blood flow to many critical areas of the brain along the outside here. With normal healthy brains, you don't have that. So bottom line is that when you have sleep apnea, it's basically going to lead to brain shrinking. Not good. Now we know the thing that is driving it is inflammation. Because yes, fixing sleep apnea takes a little bit of time. But if we could do something to target the inflammation, it will start to reverse these effects and also help us with sleep apnea. And just as a graphical representation of this, again, it's bad breathing, inflammation in three main areas that we're going to target with our teaspoon solution here: airway, brain, and heart. And again, leading to downstream problems here. So that's what we're going to talk about with our nice little teaspoon solution here. And before we do, a few disclaimers. I don't have a cool supplement to sell you. Okay? I don't. Sorry if you wanted that. I mean, I can point you to places on Amazon to get it. I have some pictures and you can go pick things. And of course, always talk to your doctor when you're considering any sort of supplementation. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because supplements aren't something always I reach for right away in working with people. In fact, it's something I like to keep on the back burner. So, when actually introducing this to you all, it's because I've noticed a pattern when introducing this to clients. Now, all that out of the way, just to show you what the effect of this is. So here's a overnight pulse ox strip, and basically what this represents is someone oxygen levels when they have bad sleep apnea. And here's an actual one that I grabbed from one of our clients. We don't need to know the numbers exactly, but as you can see, big swings that we don't want. Now, typically, this is a composite graph, just taking data from a bunch of people and making it a lot easier to look at. This is where we'll get to after a couple weeks of tailoring people's breathing exercises, the other holistic factors, all that good stuff. That's where they'll get to. Now, at this point, a lot of times we'll decide, hey, maybe it's time to add some other things. And recently, I've been adding in, this little thing that I want to share with you, the whole teaspoon. And this is what it's able to create to help smooth things out with those overnight oxygen levels where it's in a nice, healthy range here. All right. Now, I think this will average around, say, 96%. Your oxygen levels are not an exam or a quiz. You're not going to be at 100%. That's fine. Now, the question you're probably wondering is like, what the heck are these things? So this is something pulling from the research, of course, and a few things grabbed my eyes and looking over this is the impact of these supplements on reducing AHI, which aren't super impressive, which I'll admit are not super impressive by themselves. But when you add these things, we add 2 from CoQ10, we add 7 from N-acetylcysteine, and then also 3 from resveratrol, that adds up to something. And especially when you stack that onto other things, even better. So what all these look like, and the importance of all of these, if we want to really break this down, is that resveratrol, think of it as putting out the fire in the brain. That's where it's going to be the most active and bring down inflammation in your neurons. CoQ10 or coenzyme Q10, ubiquinol specifically, that is going to reduce the inflammation big time in your cardiovascular system, especially your heart. Because remember, we said inflammation will go to your heart and your brain. This will help with that. And then the other factor, the third one, is the airway. And that's where N-acetylcysteine comes in and will selectively reduce inflammation inside of the airway. And if you're a super smart cookie, you will notice that it will lower these inflammatory markers that we saw earlier. So that's why they all are in this triumvirate or, team of three, however you want to say that, of this little teaspoon solution. So here's the one spoon to rule them all, and I'll have it written down for you. It's all 3 of these together, combined in a, small amount, of course, to be able to calm down inflammation in a way that's going to reverse the damage and help improve your breathing at night. Also during the daytime as well. These aren't really brand recommendations per se. I can't really say which one's the best. I haven't tried all of them. I literally just grab these images from Google search. And how you would use this. And of course, this is patent pending, is the Oxy blend. If I was to put a cool name on it, that would be it. But nonetheless, what that looks like is CoQ10, 100 milligrams, N-acetylcysteine, 600 milligrams, resveratrol, 200 milligrams, 2-3 times a day. That's what I've been doing. All right. Again, always talk to your doctor about what may or may not be appropriate for you based on you, your needs, and everything else going on in your life. Now, for this, I will admit, it does help. Now, it is just a band-aid fix if we think about it, because if we go all the way back to my little chart over here, this is going to help a lot with the metabolic factors, which will help with some with the breathing pattern, but there's still a lot of the breathing pattern we need to tackle. So that's why I want to have a short separate discussion of fixing the core issue of sleep apnea, which is a breathing problem. You're breathing too fast, too irregular. It's going to pull things into that space and block off your airway. Obviously, we want to have a slower inhale, so we don't do that. And how we make that happen is through both direct and indirect contributors to sleep apnea. We talked about the indirect, but we're going to talk more about the direct right here, right now. The breathing retraining and also muscle activation. Because if you have better tongue posture per se, like we'll talk about in a second, that will help dramatically in preventing your tongue from flopping back. Or if you're breathing in a better, slower, smoother pattern, then that's also going to help. Because there's a lot of different aspects to breathing retraining and muscle activation. diaphragm, your nasal breathing, relaxation, like, and this is actually the simplified graph. So that's why I want to just start to a nice simple place. In case you're wondering, I just type in certain phrases into Google to see if anything fun shows up, and half the time I don't even know. I think this is Star Trek, I'm pretty sure, but don't quote me on that. So that's why I want to go over a really good basic starting exercise known as tongue lift breathing. And it starts with a quick quiz, which is just sit there. And I want you to feel where your tongue is. Yes, it's in your mouth, duh. But what is it touching? What is it resting against? Is it resting on the bottom? Is it kind of like folded up into the back of your throat? Is it resting nice up against the roof of your mouth? Where is it? People don't really think about that, but it's important to know where your tongue is because tongue posture will contribute and maybe one of the biggest contributing factors to how you can breathe at night. So, just to really quickly recap this, if you have a bad tongue posture, it's going to be more like kind of like flop back here and then go into the back of your throat. If you have it more up against the roof of your mouth, then it's not in the back. Pretty simple. So, that's why I had this little drill that I really like to give to people. The tongue lifting breathing drill. Really fun, really active, and a great way if you're in public to get people to leave you alone. So step one is to bring the front teeth together. Like that, okay? Nice and simple. Don't push it, okay? Don't get crazy with it. Then you want to bring the tip of your tongue just behind your top teeth. Like that. Okay? Not like weird like that, like behind those front teeth, tip to the back of those front teeth there. So teeth together, tip, you're good. Now, as you inhale for a 4 count, you are also at the same time going to press the middle part of your tongue firmly against the roof of your mouth. So let's do this part. So inhale and push the middle of the tongue to the roof of the mouth while maintaining the teeth and the tip of the tongue. Okay, pretty simple, pretty easy. That's the inhale part. So every time you inhale for this drill, you're going to press the middle of your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Now, for the exhale, which is a 10 count, you're going to exhale for a count of 10 through your nose and breathe through your nose through all of this if you can. And as you're exhaling, you're going to engage or raise the back third of your tongue towards the back of your throat. This will feel weird if you're not used to it, but let's walk through this. So as you exhale through your nose, think about bringing the rear of your tongue either backwards or up. And in fact, the first time you do this, if this is the first time you're doing this, like don't even worry about the exhale. Let's just get the tongue pattern down. The back of the tongue, back or up, or sometimes people work better on the diagonal in back Q. And if you're doing it right, one, it'll start to feel a little bit weird. I mean, it's not weird. It's tensing a muscle that you really don't tense very often. But then you may also feel some change in these muscles here in your face, like an activation, if you will, or along the side. So you feel that, great. And then just hold that while you exhale. Simple as that. So that's the exhale portion. You're going to exhale and raise the back of that tongue as you're doing that. Now, the third step of this cycle, really, because we have a starting position, but then there's this cycle here. So you're going to not breathe. You're going to pause your breathing and then spit and swallow in your mouth. Sounds very appetizing, I know. Spit and swallow. And as you do this, either force your tongue to suction to the top of your mouth, or for some people, it will just happen. Either way is fine. So you'll feel that engagement of the tongue. Do that 5 times. And then once you do that 5 times, and then inhale for a 4 count while doing the middle part of the tongue, and then exhale 10 count, pause, and then go through the spit swallow in the mouth. So you'll do that, those 3 steps for 5 to 10 minutes. Now, if that's too hard, just lower the time of either the exhale or the number of spit swallow cycles during the pause. Simple as that. So that will start to help you, one, reset your breathing to a slower, more regular pattern, but then also it'll help strengthen the tongue as well without having to, have separate tongue exercises and all of that. So it's a nice little combo there to be nice and efficient with your time. So some of you may be wondering, is all this written down somewhere to make it super easy? The answer is yes. The answer is indeed yes. That's why I don't always like to belabor every single point. Maybe do a walkthrough every now and then. So that's available to you if you want more options and just like to have that all written out. I totally get that, whether it's the recipe, if you will, and also the tongue lift exercise, and also some more ways to boost nutrition and breathing. That's going to be there for you, the free guide. I'll tell you how to get in a second. Now, if some of you do want a little bit more of a tailored and comprehensive way to help with your sleep apnea, where you're doing a series of tests to figure out what are other muscles you can work on, what are going to be other ways to tailor and optimize your breathing exercises so they're the most effective for you. That's what the Sleep Apnea Reset Protocol Workshop is all about. And you also get a digital copy, like an ebook, of the Sleep Apnea Solution book that covers some other things like the metabolic factors and all of that. So that's available for you. I think the button will be on screen right now, hopefully. You can click and go check that out. So for either of them, another way is if you're on your phone, desktop, TV, whatever you're doing, for the teaspoons and tongue lift guy, which is really the best name I could come up with. My creativity was not great today, I'll admit. And yeah, that's some great cover art. But how you get that? Click on the title. This is on your phone. I find it hard to find links in descriptions. That's why I'm walking through this. You want that free thing, go click the title, then the description box pops up. If you're on your tablet or your whatchamacallit desktop, it should just be easily accessible. You find that there, and then that's pretty easy. For the Sleep Apnea Reset Protocol, or as we call it, the SARP. You want to sound really trendy. I think the button was probably just on screen. You missed it. Sorry. And then also there's another button, I think just underneath the comments on mobile or desktop. And then also I think there's another button inside the description box for this. I feel it changes every single time. Now, if you don't like clicking things, I totally get that. If you just want to enter it into your web browser, you do have options as well. So for the free guide, you can get that ochnow.com/teaspoon. Again, maximum creativity on that one. For the workshop, go to ochnow.com/reset. And if you're on the 45% of people who watch this on a Roku, which I thought was a Zumba, like not a Zumba. What's the machine that like vacuums? Roomba? You think I'm going over like a jazzercise thing. No, Zumba is the jazzercise, Roomba is the vacuum. Nonetheless, oh god. If you're still here with me, thank you. Nonetheless, I'm going to show you some QR codes. It's pretty simple. Get your phone, get the camera, and then you just point it. You don't take a picture, you just point it at the thing. So get your phone if you are into QR codes, or if you're on TV watching this and want to use your phone to access either one of these, you can go ahead and do that. So free guide on the left, and then the reset is on the right. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next page.